inflation. I want to speak to inflation in these few minutes that have remained. And now, you see, when you talk about inflation, this is a conversation that has been there for so many years. Inflation is basically defined as the overall increase, the overall increase, the overall, you know, and the persistent, overall and persistent increase, you know, overall and persistent increase. What is increasing? In the prices, in the general price level, or in the overall price level of the goods. It has to be the overall and also the persistent increase. That is when it qualifies to be called the inflation. I want to speak to this point. If it is just the increase in the prices of only one good, maybe the prices of the minimum only, that is not inflation, doesn't qualify to be called inflation, okay? Yeah. It only qualifies to be called inflation when it is the overall increase in all the prices of the goods and the services, right? Once the general price level does increase, then you will have all those changes. That's very, very important. Please, let's be very conversant with that. And now we can also speak to the different types of inflation. Inflation itself, is grouped into different types, mainly depending on the cause of it. There is what you call demand pull inflation and also cost push inflation, right? There's demand pull inflation and the cost push inflation. And in this class, I'm just speaking to demand pull inflation and also how to demonstrate or how to represent it, on the diagram graphically. So what is demand pull inflation? Listen, a demand pull inflation, this is the type of inflation that is as a result of the increase in the aggregate demand, right? So when there is a increase in the aggregate demand, and as aggregate demand increases, then it spikes or it hikes the prices. And this is how it works. Remember, aggregate demand AD is given thus, aggregate demand shall equal, consumption plus investments plus government expenditure plus exports minus imports, isn't it? You said that this is consolidated demand, right? This is the consolidated demand. Now, when this demand increases, maybe due to the change in one of the factors affecting this aggregate demand, you will see that as demand increases, also the general price level does increase. Is that clear? Are we still connected? May I just get to confirmation people are hearing me? A graphical representation is this one. So there is a price, right? There is price on the vertical axis. Price is on the vertical axis, and then there is income. There is output actually on the other or aggregate demand. So what is happening is that there is this demand. Let's say this is the AD1, aggregate demand 1, and the aggregate supply 1. So there is this equilibrium price, follow nicely. I'm showing you the graphical, or the grammatical representation of the same. So this is the graph. Now listen, as demand is increasing, let's say demand increases to the right, to AD2, aggregate demand 2, what will happen? The price will increase to P2. Also output, this is not quantity, this is output. the output will increase to Y2. You've seen that, right? Then again, if aggregate demand increases further to AD3, also the price will increase to P3 upward, and also the output shall increase to Y3. So the message we are sending is that as aggregate demand is increasing, also the price, the general price level is doing what? It is increasing, causing the overall increase or persistent increase in the general price level. And this is what you call demand pull inflation. This is demand pull inflation. And the causes of this inflation are basically the factors, that increases aggregate demand. And the aggregate demand is given as follow. It is consumption, that is made up of the following. Listen, there is the autonomous consumption plus the marginal propensity to consume, income minus taxes, plus the investments, right? Remember, investments are influenced by interest rates. Let me just see. Let me just put this R. Interest rate plus the government expenditure is exogenous times the exports minus imports. Correct? So when you are asked about the causes of this, you are basically speaking to the factors affecting aggregate demand, which are just these same elements. For example, one, reduction in taxes. You see that if you hold other factors constant, ceteris paribus, the reduction in taxes shall increase aggregate demand. So this will be depicted by a rightward shift in the demand curve, in the aggregate demand curve, increasing the income and also the prices. Two, the reduction in the interest rate. You know that when the interest rates increase, then investments will increase, right? Once the interest rates go down, investments increase. And the increase in investments, ceteris paribus, that is to say, holding other factors constant, that will increase aggregate demand, and aggregate demand will also hike the prices. Then increase in government expenditure. If the government opts to increase their expenditure, holding other factors constant, aggregate demand will increase, and that will spike the prices. And then if there is an increase in what? Increase in exports. If exports increase, holding imports constant, or reduction in imports, holding exports constant, all those are some of the key factors that affect demand or that increase aggregate demand. And when all those scenarios happen, you shall see the general price level of the goods and services increasing. So this is the whole idea behind demand pull inflation. So we have shown you the causes of it. I've summarized the causes, and I've also shown you on a graph how to present demand pull inflation. It is caused by the aggregate demand increasing, right? The increase in the aggregate demand, and you'll see that the price levels start increasing. And the factors, I repeat one more time, it is reduction in the general tax level, reduction in interest rate that increase investments, increase in the government expenditure, increase in exports, holding imports constant, or decrease in imports, holding exports constant. Yeah. So this is the conversation. This is the message that we are sending across. All right. Are we still connected? Can I just get feedback? We are still connected. You can still hear me. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the conversation. So basically, to sum it up, what have we done? We have defined what inflation is. It is the increase in the general price level, the overall increase. and not just the increase today, then it's the persistent increase, persistent increase, in the general price level of the goods and services. And it is broken down in different types, right? Demand pull inflation is one of them that we have spoken to in this conversation. We have also shown how that is done graphically and explained the causes of the same. Okay.